Yes, indeed. Keep us in the loop. A Solar says, when doing an exclusive license, what is the standard publishing split between you and the publisher? Them taking 100% seems off to me. So let's talk about this 100% publisher split. Technically, it's 50. It's half. Let's say half to make it less confusing. So you know what? Let's go and let's do this. We're gonna go into teach mode. Let's pull out the iPad and I'm gonna break this down. Cause it's easier to visualize than to try and explain it sometimes. So this is what we're gonna do. Let's move this. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm sorry you can't see this, but you can hear it. But come over to YouTube. You can see it on YouTube and you'll be good. All right, so here we go. All right, so let's think about it this way. We have two ways to get paid from something getting placed on TV and film. All right, so you got two ways to get paid. Two ways to monies. All right, you got the upfront sync fee, right? My handwriting is trash. Don't judge me. So you got the upfront sync fee. That is split typically. Let's just say you're just doing a standard, production music library, typical 50-50 upfront sync fee. So that's 50-50. If it's a $5,000 sync, you get $2,500. Publisher gets $2,500. Right? So that's you. That's pub. All right, so that's 50-50. Then you get royalties. That's not how you spell royalties. Come on. Let's get it right. All right, so you get royalties. Royalties are typically split 50-50. However, royalties are basically a 200% pie. Depending on which PRO you're with, that 200% could be 100%, but is honestly the same thing. For example, I think ASCAP works off of 100, if I'm not mistaken. So it looks like 50-50 when it comes to royalties, whereas B works on 200. So it looks like 100. Like both sides have to add up to 100%. No matter how they break it down, there's 100% of writer shares, and then there's 100% of publisher shares of royalties. So if the publisher is publishing, they're going to be entitled to 100% of the publisher share. And if you're doing the writing, you're entitled to 100% of the writer share. And because this equals 200, it's technically 50-50, 100 and 100. So that's why it's like weird, because it's like, what do you mean 100%? And then a lot of people think, oh, like they're taking the publishing, like they're taking all my publishing. I can't do it. It's not like this publisher share of royalties. You still own the song. Once the term of the agreement is over, you could technically say, hey, I want to pull this out and, sign it somewhere else. You still have ability to do that, unless you're doing an in perpetuity deal. That's pretty much forever. But essentially, that's what that 100% of the publisher share is. So that's fair. When they start trying to dig into the writer share, that's when it gets weird. Like as a publisher, because it's just like, yo, this is what you're supposed to be eating from. And I've seen situations where the publisher started here eating from publisher, and then they were like, hey, by the way, can we get like 50% of this? And then that's when you say no, and then you run. Right? So that's that's the breakdown of, look, I just jacked this whole thing up. You're probably ready to start trying to get TV placements, but you just don't know the next step to take. So I want you to download my free Sync Producer Quick Start Guide, which is going to help you do that. It's going to give you the steps, and it's going to give you resources to get you started on this journey. So just go to clintproductions.com/free guide, or click the link in the description and download that free Sync Producer Quick Start Guide. So that's the breakdown of that. Hopefully that makes sense. Did that make more sense for you? Larry Bradshaw says, come over to the light, y'all. Studio One is where it's at. Are there different versions of Studio One? Larry's the Studio One expert. I'll let him answer that. He says yes, from the professional version down to the artist version, which is basic. That's cool. Logic's basic version is GarageBand, basically. So it's standard to split the publisher 50-50 and not sign the whole thing over. Well, you have to give them publishing rights. You have to give them rights to the master and the publishing to be able to do what they need to do and collect on your behalf. So you're gonna sign like those rights, but depending on the deal, you know, you'll still get your royalties, and then depending on if there's any upfront fees and depending on what that split looks like, you'll get that as well. So yeah, 50-50 split is pretty standard. Now, if you're working with like a sync agent, that upfront sync fee, honestly, if you're working with a sync agent, typically those splits will look completely different. I was actually just talking to somebody on Threads about this earlier, but every time I've gotten a placement through a sync agent, I was able to retain 100% writer share and 100% publisher share of royalties. And how much was the split on the upfront sync? I've seen everything from like, man, I want to say 30. I'll say anywhere from like 20 to 50% on the upfront fee. I've seen that with sync agents. So all of their money came just from a percentage of the upfront sync fee, and then I was able to just collect everything. So that's how that situation could look a little bit different. Yep. Got it. Okay, yeah. No problem, man. Is it standard for sync houses to take part of your writing as well? It seems like that's becoming more and more standard. Yeah, it depends on the situation, man. So it depends on the situation. Like I've done deals where, say you're working on a project and you as the producer, you're working on a project, and then you bring other producers in to help you with those projects. I've seen splits on the writer side in regards to that. I've done deals where, you know, it was like non-exclusive deals, and then we just kind of tap some writer share for the person who was like pitching it, because, you know, we wouldn't get the placement otherwise. So we couldn't pull anything from the publisher because whoever the publisher was, they just ate 100% of that. So we just worked something out on the writers. You'll see that, especially across just collaborations and things like that. But like for like the big publishers, like this is like the publisher, you know, it should be coming from the publisher side. So it depends, man. And I know, you know, some of the networks, man, they have their own publishing company. So then they're knocking some publishers out of the publisher share. So the publisher's trying to figure out how to eat. So there's those situations. But yeah, it just depends, man. Depends on the situation. So Willie Waco says, what's the fastest turnaround you've gotten from a brief to placement? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 4 days has been literally 4 days. It was during March Madness. I'll never forget it. Wednesday, they hit me up. They was like, hey, we need you to make this edit, put this section here, put this here, and then extend it. I was just like, bet. I sat at my dining room table on my iPad. I made the edit in Beatmaker 3 because I had the audio, the stems. So I just drug it, chopped it up in Beatmaker 3, pieced it together, bounced it out, emailed it. By Sunday, it was on March Madness, what do they call it? The selection show. March Madness selection show. That was the quickest placement I've ever gotten. From brief to placement. Well, no, you know what? I take that back, because the brief might have came the week before. So I take that back. The brief came a week before, and then by that following week, I had the placement. But yeah, I'll say from the day that I pitched it, though, that day was like Wednesday, and they hit me back with edit. So that was like the quickest.